Metzia. I believe we're in Nun Bays. Nun Bays, the 52. Go back there. 52B. 5 lines from the bottom. Okay. Okay. We have a discussion of Ma'aser Sheni, and we're at Gufa, Amar Chizkiah. So we repeat the Gemara that Rabbi Brown learned with you yesterday, and we begin by as follows: Gufa. What's the original Gemara? Amar Chizkiah. Chizkiah says, "Ma'aser Sheni she'ein b'shavar pruta. Amar hu v'chum shemechol al ma'aser shenis. She'ev shalal adam matzamtzem ma'aser." Hold on 1 second here. 1 second. Okay. If at any point you can't hear me, just let me know, and I will, or just send a message in the chat, and I'll fix any audio issues. Okay. So what's the story? A guy has a very small amount of Ma'aser Sheni. It's less than a pruta. Let's say it's 5 cents, and he needs to put it onto a coin to be able to bring it to Jerusalem. So what does he do? He finds an extra coin, meaning previously this guy had he had $100 of Ma'aser Sheni to be redeemed. He got a big platinum coin, and he put the $100 of Ma'aser Sheni onto the coin. Okay. However, a person doesn't usually fill up the whole coin. In this $100 coin, there is $98 worth of Ma'aser. So what do? You can add this little bit of Ma'aser onto the big coin that's missing a little bit. Okay, and sort of the idea is that you can't redeem Ma'aser Sheni if it's less than a quarter, for argument's sake. Let's say the minimum amount is a quarter, 25 cents. You can't redeem 10 cents, but you could add the 10 cents to an existing coin that has a little bit extra of space on the coin, because the amount of value of Ma'aser Sheni that was put on the coin does not equal the value of the coin. Okay, so that's the solution. Now, the problem here is that we'll soon see that we'll learn a brisa, and the brisa indicates to us that there actually is no way to redeem this money, and seemingly Chizkiah says there's a simple way to redeem it. Let's sort of see it. Okay, Meisvei, the second to bottom line, 52b. Meisvei hatruma v'bikurin chayavan alei misa v'chaimesh. So we have truma. Truma again is the first. There are 2 types of trumas. There's truma gedola. Truma gedola, we said, is either a tiny amount or as much as you want. It can be almost the whole field, with the exception of 1 kernel. That would not be truma. Now, when you take off truma, the rabbinically recommended number is 1 in 50. If you're stingy, 1 in 60. If you're generous, 1 in 40. Okay, that's regular truma. Then is trumas ma'aser. After you take off truma, which we said is either on average is 1 in 50, but it could be very small or very large. After you take of truma, 10% of the remainder is Ma'aser. Of that Ma'aser, 10% is Trumas Ma'aser, which also has the same halacha as Truma. That's Truma. Okay, what's Bikurim? Bikurim is the first fruit. So the field, the first fruit of the field, you tie a red ribbon around it, and you bring it to the Kain, and you bring it to Jerusalem. That's called Bikurim. Mitzvah Bikurim. Bikurim has the same laws as Truma. What's the story here? Now we'll soon see that, we'll see as we go along, that these things are very, very severe. They have very strict penalties. So let's see. If you eat it, you're liable for a godly ordained death penalty. And if you eat it by mistake, you have to pay a chaimesh. You have to add a fifth to it. A fifth, we'll see, but a fifth is not what we call in English, we would call that 25%. So after you add the fifth equals the total. Okay. It's prohibited to a zar, to someone who's not a kayan, and they belong to the kayan. In other words, the truma actually is the truma actually is owned by the kayan. What does it mean? It's owned by the kayan. Let's say kayan wants to marry a woman, he can take truma and give it to the woman and say, this truma, that's the kedusha. As opposed to Ma'aser Sheni, where you can't do that. Ma'aser Sheni is considered God's food. You don't actually own your Ma'aser Sheni. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that component in a moment. Okay. Okay, where are we? 1 second. Okay, okay, so now what happened? The truma fell into a pile of chulin. So you had one apple of truma, and it fell into an entire crate of apples of chulin. So if there's 100 apples against one apple of truma, if you have 100 against one, then we say it's nullified. It's bottle. Typical bittul in food is 1 in 60. Over here, it's 1 in 100. Okay, if you want to eat it, you have to presume your hands have a rabbinical impurity. You have to wash your hands. Okay, let's say you're actually tamei and you go to the mikvah. It's not enough. The hair of shemesh. You have to actually wait until the next morning, until the sun goes down. Once the sun goes down, you don't have to wait the next morning. You have to wait until sundown, and that's when you become tahor. Harayel b'truma bikurim. These are all true of truma and bikurim. Mash'en came in meiser. None of these rules apply to meiser sheni. Meiser sheni is not as strict. My mash'en came in meiser. What exactly does that mean? Lav mechlal de meiser batal beruba, indicating to us truma requires 100 units of meiser against 1 unit of truma. Meiser, on the other hand, batal beroiv. If you have 5 apples of meiser that fall into 6 apples of chulin, then you can eat the whole thing. It's nullified by majority. So there's majority. There's 6 units of chulin against 5 units of meiser. It's nullified. Hold on 1 second. We have a problem here. The general principle here is there's a principle davar sheyesh lematirin. What does that mean? Davar sheyesh lematirin means as follows. I'll give you the classical example. If anyone remembers, I believe we learned Beitzah together. No, maybe I think Beitzah may have been the Masechta I came right after Masechta's Beitzah. Not sure if we learned Beitzah together. Okay, regardless, about 3.5 years ago. Masechta's Beitzah. This is just an example, just for an illustration. The rule is that an egg that was laid on Yom Tiv you cannot eat on Yom Tiv. You have to wait until after Yom Tiv. Forget about the reason why. It's not important. Let's say a chicken lays an egg on Yom Tiv, and somebody took the egg and put it into the dozen eggs in the fridge, and you don't know which egg it is. So you have 11 eggs against 1 egg. That's prohibited. So normally the rule in principle is called bittul. The 1 egg is nullified by the 11 eggs in the carton. However, we say is an exception. Why? Over here, because the egg is only prohibited on Yom Tiv itself, right? If you waited until after Yom Tiv, you can eat all dozen eggs. There's nothing wrong. If a chicken lays an egg on Yom Tiv, you can eat it after Yom Tiv. It's just that on Yom Tiv, you can't lay the eggs. You can't eat an egg laid on Yom Tiv. So therefore, the argument the Gemara says is that if it's going to be permitted later on anyway, why should you eat it now now on Yom Tiv and rely on bittul, rely on nullifying it, eat it the next day on Sunday or Monday, whatever it is after Yom Tiv, and you don't have to rely on bittul now. You can eat every single egg. They're all permitted. Meaning the egg is a davar sheyesh le matirin. It is an item that has permissibility. And when an item has permissibility, the general principle is we say that it's not bottle. We do not invoke the principle of nullification. So here's the question. Here we go. Okay. So truma, we're saying truma is not, this bottle is nullified in 1 in 100. Okay. Why is this? Because truma is not considered yesh l'matirin. Why? Because it's only permitted to a kohen. Truma is never permitted to a Jew. So there's nothing that changes about truma that would make it mutter the next day. Right? Truma is always prohibited to a regular Jew and always permitted to a kohen. And therefore truma is not in the category of davar sheyesh l'matirin. So what is in the category of davar sheyesh l'matirin? According to Chizkiah, that says that if you have a tiny amount of meiser, you can redeem it onto a coin that's missing, that has extra space for it. So we have a question here. Why is meiser nullified in majority? Why can't you redeem the meiser? Then he said, if you go with the principle of Chizkiah, so how do you ever have meiser that can't be redeemed? The answer is you have meiser that's worth less than a quarter. It's 5 cents worth of meiser. And that's why it's nullified if it falls in, if you have, let's say, a quarter of an apple of meiser that falls into another container of cut up apples. So you say bittul by majority. However, according to Chizkiah, this is davar sheyesh l'matirin. There's a solution. What's the solution? Go redeem that 5 cents of an apple onto a coin that has extra space. So you redeemed $85 onto the $100 coin. So now there's $15 left of space. And you can add that 5 cents to the $15. Are we together? we together on the question? Perfect. Okay, good. Okay. So feel about the bottles. The Gemara says, fine. We might the masha ain't came a meiser, the bottom arrive. Okay, fine. So this is the question. So now the Gemara proposes an alternative. In other words, how do we know that the rule of meiser is in effect? How do we know the rule of this brisa listed a bunch of a list of items that are severe by truma and lenient by meiser. Right? One of them was bittul, nullification. Truma requires 100 against 1. Meiser requires a simple majority, 51%. Now, so that's a leniency in meiser. Now, when we say masha'en came to meiser, when we say that meiser is different than truma, maybe what we mean to say is we might have masha'en meiser the batal beruba dilma loy batal klal. Maybe meiser is different. Doesn't mean to be lenient and say that meiser is bottled by majority, it's nullified a majority. Maybe it actually means that meiser is never nullified at all. There's never any bittul for meiser. So the Gemara says that can't be. Maybe it means that it's not nullified whatsoever. The Gemara says you can't say that that's the explanation. Why? We're listing here the stringency of truma. In that case, it would be a stringency of meiser. Let me explain. So the Gemara is proposing that maybe meiser is never bottled. It is never nullified because of chizkiah. Why? Because it's a davar sheyesh matirin. Because meiser sheni always has permissibility, right? The way to get it permissible is to redeem it using the method of chizkiah. Well, if that's the case, then it turns out that meiser is more stringent than truma. Truma, 100 against 1 is nullified. Meiser, even 100 against 1 is not nullified. So it can't be that when the Mishnah says that meiser is different because meiser is more stringent, because the Mishnah here is clearly listing leniencies in meiser, not stringencies in meiser. 1 second. Amr talking. The gabi truma. 1 second. Let's Amr talking. The gabi truma chumid truma tani. Kol truma like tani. Because we're listing the stringencies of truma, not the leniencies.
Page position, please.
53a. A little less than halfway down, and the first word on the line is loy.
The loy?
Loy.
Tani.
Like Tani, yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Kani kula truma like Tani. The Gemara says vakatani ve'nichse kayin. Okay, so the Gemara explains that, well, there actually is a leniency of truma here. What's the leniency? We explained that truma, if a kohen takes truma and gives it to a woman and says to the woman, I'm giving you $100 worth of truma, and with this money, you should be married to me. The kedushin is valid. The marriage is valid. However, let's say any person who has $100 worth of ma'aser sheni, remember, is eaten in Jerusalem, and he goes over to a woman in the street of Jerusalem and says, here's $100 of ma'aser sheni, and I want to be married to you with this money. The answer is the kedushin is not valid. Why not? Because meiser you don't actually own. God owns the meiser. The kohen actually owns the truma. The kohen, nobody owns meiser sheni. You're a custodian over meiser sheni. You don't actually own it. So therefore, that's an example of a stringency of meiser and a leniency of truma. Truma is lenient in the sense that the kohen actually owns it and he's able to marry a woman with it. Meiser is so stringent that nobody even owns it. God owns it. You can't marry a woman with the money of meiser. Seymour says it doesn't make a difference. Okay, fine. You're right. So it's true. The Mishnah did not list every item in the Mishnah is not necessarily a stringency of truma. However, it doesn't make a difference. I don't care. The Tanya Behedik, because it's a straight brisa that says Meiser Sheni Botel Baruba. Meiser Sheni is nullified by majority. Uba Eza Meiser Sheni Amro. Let's be unsure. What type of Meiser are we talking about? The Meiser Sheni B'Shava Pruta. B'Shenechnas Yerushalayim V'Yatza. We're talking about Meiser that isn't even worth 25 cents, a quarter. So we're talking about a minimal amount of meiser, and it's bottled by majority. Then Isol the chizkiah, but hold on, according to the opinion of chizkiah that we said, there is a solution for 5 cents worth of meiser. What you do is you redeem it onto a coin that has extra space, extra value space on the coin. So then what are we talking about here? Why is it bottled? It's a davar sheyesh l'matir, and it's an item that has permissibility. Because it has permissibility, then it should not be nullified. So let him add it to an existing coin. The Gemara says the loipar. He never ever redeemed Ma'aser Sheni in his life. He doesn't have an existing coin. He doesn't have any coin. So the Gemara says, okay, 1 second. Okay, so here's a simple solution. Okay, the guy has a quarter of an apple, right? It's worth 5 cents. And it fell into a bucket full of cut up apples. So here's a simple solution. Go to your apple field, another 10 pounds of apples that did not take off the tithes yet. And then you'll take off Ma'aser Sheni, which is going to be approximately 7 point something. 7 apples are going to be Ma'aser Sheni. You take off 10, whatever. You pick off 100 apples, 7 of them are Ma'aser Sheni, roughly speaking. So here's what you do. Say, I'm redeeming the 7 apples, which have a value of $2.20, right? Together with the quarter of an apple that's in the bin, and I want all that money to be redeemed on this coin. So forget about Chizkiah. We have another solution. Even without Chizkiah, the 5 cents of Ma'aser should have a simple way to be redeemed. What you do is combine it with other apples that need to be redeemed. The Gemara says you can't do that. Why not? Let's explain. Basically, this concept of Dover Sheish Lamatir and Eine Bottle, an item that will be permissible in the future, is not nullified, is true rabbinically, not biblically. Therefore, biblically speaking, this apple is actually permitted to be eaten. It's only rabbinically that you're not allowed to eat it. If that's the case, then we cannot combine a biblical requirement for redemption together with a rabbinical requirement for redemption. So you cannot combine a biblical obligation to redeem together with a rabbinical obligation to redeem. Okay, fine. So Gemara says, so we have another solution. So take something that has a rabbinical obligation. What's that? Go bring demai. What's demai? Demai is the category of fruits that we don't know whether or not Ma'aser was taken. Now, we actually sort of have a suspicion. The suspicion is that it was taken. And for the biblical requirement, it is satisfied. Biblically speaking, demai does not require Trumas and Ma'asers. Demai is, where do you get demai from? You get it from an unlearned Jew in temple times, where you're not sure if he took off the money or not, he took off the Ma'aser or not. So in truth, we can presume he did. But practically speaking, the rabbi said you still have to treat it as if it was not taken off. If that's the case, so it's rabbinical. So use the rabbinic. So combine. So we went to the random grocery store. You bought 100 apples. You add that quarter of an apple in the bin to the 100 apples, and you redeem them. Very good. So what's the problem? We don't want you actually redeeming it on Dmai because people get confused, and people might come to redeem on real tevel. Tevel means untithed. Authentic. It actually has a biblical requirement to redeem. So we don't want you doing that. Okay, so we have a different proposal. We have a simple proposal as follows. Okay, here's the simple solution. Go bring 2 quarters, 50 cents, right? Then go pick 10 apples. Of those 10 apples, 3/4 of one of the apples is going to be Ma'aser Sheni. And for argument's sake, let's say the 3/4 of an apple is worth 25 cents. To redeem the 20, it's worth 35 cents. 35 cents. So redeem the 3/4 of an apple, a little more than 3/4 of an apple, onto 2 quarters. So 1/4 is completely Ma'aser. The other quarter is halfway Ma'aser. It's 15 cents. 15 cents of the 25-cent value of the quarter is Ma'aser. And then you have now 10 cents extra space. So what you do is you add your little 5 cents, your 5 cents for the quarter of the apple to the remainder of the quarter. Together? Okay, so in other words, without Chizkiah, so Chizkiah has this proposal of adding on value. Gemara says, well, Chizkiah's proposal isn't relevant because he doesn't have any other coin. So Gemara says, well, here's the solution. Make another coin. Bring 2 quarters. Make 1/4 completely Ma'aser, the other quarter halfway Ma'aser, and then add it to the half a quarter. The quarter that's half of its value is Ma'aser. Okay. The Gemara says, "Misavers pruta metza tafsa shtei pruta is loy pruta tafsa pruta b'chatzi pruta loy tafsa. How do I have a deraisa or deraisa rabbanon loy mitzdarfin?" Okay, so Gemara says this solution is not going to work. Why? Because what's going to happen? What actually happens in this scenario is that one quarter is redeemed, the other quarter is halfway redeemed, which means it's not redeemed at all, and therefore you're stuck here again because you have a biblical obligation to redeem. And you can't combine it with the rabbinical obligation to redeem. They can't be combined together. So therefore, this is not going to work. Okay, so the Gemara says this is fundamentally problematic because we're using such small coins. Why are we using quarters? Switch to dollar coins. Make a dollar coin that has extra space on it, right? Redeem. Go to the orchard, pick 20 apples, take one and a quarter, one and a half or so. Redeem it on a dollar coin. So you filled up 35 cents worth of the dollar coin of value of Meiser, and then you can add to it, according to Chizkiah, the 5 cents of the quarter of an apple that fell into the bin. So the Gemara says, no. Because it doesn't work with small coins, we don't want you doing this with big coins, because you might get confused. Let's bring a larger coin. We don't want you bringing small coins. And because the small coins, it might end up that you're redeeming biblically required or rabbinically required on the same coin, which is not allowed. Okay. From here on, we've completed this segment. We've addressed and answered Chizkiah. Now we get to a separate point. The Brisa previously mentioned that what type of Meiser is bottled by majority? Meiser Sheni that left Jerusalem. Okay, so simple explanation here means, let's say, for example, I had a field full of apples. Okay, and I brought a few crates of apples. I brought them to Jerusalem. Okay. And then, for some reason, somebody took them out of Jerusalem. By the way, once they reach Jerusalem, you're not supposed to be taking them out. Moreover, if I grew my apples in Beit Shemesh, okay, and I in Beit Shemesh I can redeem my container of apples onto a $5 coin. But once I bring them to Jerusalem, I can no longer redeem them anymore. Okay, so this stuff. Okay, fine. So basically, you have these fruits that went to Jerusalem. Now they came outside of Jerusalem, and they got mixed into other stuff outside of Jerusalem. So somebody took an apple, walked outside Jerusalem, brought it back, and mixed it in with other stuff. Therefore, we say it's botel b'roiv. Because there's 5 regular apples against 1 apple of Meiser Sheni outside of Jerusalem, then you can eat all the apples. Kamar says, "What do you mean by ma'avel? Had you been ilay? Go bring it back to Jerusalem. You can eat all 5 in Jerusalem. Why do you need to rely on the laws of bittul, of nullification outside of Jerusalem to eat all of them? Just bring all of them inside Jerusalem, and then legitimately you're allowed to eat all of them." Meiser. One second. Okay, I'm sorry, bring it back to Jerusalem. So Gemara says b'shenitma, it became tamei. So Meiser Sheni becomes tamei, you're sort of stuck. You cannot eat it anymore. You have okay. So Gemara says v'nifrake, fine, you can't eat it, but you can redeem it. The Amr Belazar, how do you know Meiser Sheni that becomes tamei could be redeemed? You can redeem it. Now we're on it 53b, first word on the page. Afilu b'Yerushalayim, even in Jerusalem. Shenemar kiloi suchal se'esai. Ve'ein se'es el achila. Shenemar v'yisa masas panav me'es panav. 1 second. Okay, so like we said, generally speaking, I have a field of orchard, an orchard of apples in Beit Shemesh. If I bring those apples to Jerusalem, I can no longer redeem them inside of Jerusalem. However, says Rabbi Lazar, if they become tamei, then I can redeem them in Jerusalem. Because the verse says, why are you redeeming your apples? Because you cannot carry them. Se'es means to carry. Okay. However, se'es also means something else. What does it mean? Ve'ein se'es el achila. This is by Yosef Atzadik. He's giving food to the tribes when they leave, right? So Yosef is the king. The brothers don't recognize him, right? And he fills up, there's a hunger. They come to get food. They meet Yosef. Yosef fills up their bags with mases. What is mases? Se'es? It's food. It means to eat. So it doesn't just mean because you can't carry it to Jerusalem, but it also means because you can't eat it. Meaning, even if you're in Jerusalem, but you cannot eat your food because it became tamei, you also have a right to redeem it. So why can't you redeem it? You have the stuff left Jerusalem, became Tamei, fine, redeem it. The Gemara says, okay, what actually happened here is, I told you this whole story was that I took my apples from my orchard in Beit Shemesh and brought them to Jerusalem. Beit Shemesh, Jerusalem, it's not that far. Okay. However, the Gemara is saying, no. Maybe actually, I didn't bring my apples from Beit Shemesh to Jerusalem. I actually redeemed my apples in Beit Shemesh. I put them onto a bunch of coins. I have a bag of coins now. And now I went to Jerusalem and I spent money. I bought a couple of cuts of meat, maybe. Maybe I bought some drinks, wine, some other stuff to eat. Okay, and that food now became tummy. Okay. And the presumption here is that the food that's bought with the money of Meiser cannot be redeemed. That's sort of like multiple redemptions. It's not allowed. So Gemara says, no. But if it becomes tummy, you are allowed to redeem it. If you buy, so I took the Meiser Sheni money and I bought a bottle of wine. It becomes tummy. Yifta, you can redeem it. So Gemara says, no. We're going here with the opinion of Rabbi Yehudah, the Amr you cover. Rabbi Yehudah's opinion is you cannot redeem it, you have to bury it. Okay. So therefore, what does this mean? I have a bottle of wine now that became tummy, right? It's my let me be more specific here. I had an orchard of apples. I grew my apples. I took off my Susheni. I redeemed the Meiser Sheni onto coins. Then went to Jerusalem. I took the coins. I bought a bottle of orange juice with that money. And then the bottle of orange juice became tummy. But even worse, it became tummy and it got mixed in with 5 other bottles of orange juice after it left Jerusalem. I bought the bottle of orange juice in Jerusalem. I took it outside Jerusalem. It became tummy and it got mixed into 5 other bottles of orange juice. So we say botel b'roiv, it's nullified. Someone says, very nice. It's a beautiful story. There's just one catch. Why did it have to leave Jerusalem? The same story could equally be true in Jerusalem. Because the rule according to Rabbi Yehudah is that you cannot redeem Ma'aser Sheni that becomes tummy. You have to bury it. Now, in this case, I don't have to bury anything because it got mixed in with 5 other bottles of oranges. So I am exempt from. I don't have to redeem it because I have to bury it. But over here, because it's within 5 other ones, so then it's nullified. It's bittul, and I can eat all 5. I can drink all 5. It was Rabbi Yehudah, even if it didn't leave Jerusalem, the same halacha is in effect. Must be referring to the bottle of orange juice was still tar. What does it mean it left Jerusalem? It didn't actually leave Jerusalem. There was a massive earthquake. The story gets better and better, right? There was a huge earthquake, and the walls of Jerusalem toppled down now to the city. Now, if there's no walls to the city of Jerusalem, so you're not allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. The laws of eating Ma'aser Sheni now are suspended because you have to eat them inside of the walls. And because there are no walls, so you can't eat Ma'aser Sheni. So how did it leave Jerusalem? The item didn't leave Jerusalem. The walls fell down. It was an earthquake, and Jerusalem now no longer has any walls. Okay. Gemara says, "V'amar Rabba mechitzas lechol deraisa mechitzas liquid rabbanon. Mechitzas rabbanon isno mechitzas gilasnu mechitzas loigos rabbanon." Gemara says, "Loigos rabbanon ben isno mechitzas ben lasnu mechitzas." Okay, so let's explain. Okay, so let's explain now. The rule is, biblically speaking, you can no longer, once the walls fall down, you cannot eat Ma'aser. Now we have a different question. Can I redeem the money? Okay, so I have all these apples in Jerusalem without walls. What do with that? Very simple. I'll redeem the whole thing. Second, we said you cannot redeem Ma'aser inside of Jerusalem. Right? And rabbinically we said as soon as it enters the walls, then it's what we call kolot. It's captured by Jerusalem in the sense that you can no longer redeem it. So over here, the Gemara proposes, well, there are no walls, then maybe the rabbi should be lenient and allow you to redeem it. The Gemara says, no, loy plug rabbanon. The rabbi said, once it was inside the walls of Jerusalem, it can no longer be redeemed. It's inside Jerusalem. And now, even though there's no walls and you can't eat it, but you still can't redeem it. you're sort of stuck. You have to let it rot and dispose of it. However, what happened? One of those bottles of orange juice got mixed in with other bottles that weren't ma'aser sheni. Therefore, you can drink it because it's bottle b'roiv. It's nullified by majority. Together. I can't hear you. Feel free to unmute.
Yep, we're with you.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So that's the first resolution.
Yes.
Maybe I'll pause here for a second. We have a little extra time here, so let me just summarize. So what do we? Let's continue, and then we'll summarize in 2 minutes as soon as we finish this section of Gemara. Okay. So that's the first resolution to the bright. And again, we're trying to explain and understand why is it that when you take fruit, bring it outside of Jerusalem, and then it gets mixed in, it's problematic. The first resolution is, the reason is because what happened was the walls fell down, and you're not allowed to redeem it. Nothing you can do with it. You have to wait till it rots. Therefore, if it falls into something else, of other permitted types of foods, we say it's bottom. It's nullified. So you have the bottle of orange juice and ma'aser sheni gets mixed into other bottles of orange juice. You're allowed to consume all the bottles. Second resolution. Rav Huna bar Yehudah Amar of Sheishes Chad Katani. We're talking about one long scenario. Ma'aser sheni she'ein b'shav prudah shenechnas u'shlayim b'yatz. It's one long scenario. What are we referring to? Referring to ma'aser sheni that was worth 5 cents that went into Jerusalem and then left Jerusalem. So Mora says, okay, go bring it back to Jerusalem inside and eat it. So Mora says, the walls fell down. So redeem it. Okay, basically the same resolution as before. What happened was what it means, so you have 5 cents, right? You have a quarter of an apple worth of ma'aser sheni in Jerusalem. The earthquake happens, the walls fall down. If the quarter of an apple falls into a bunch of other apples that are permitted to eat, and now you have a big mixture. What do you do? Bottle b'roiv, because even though normally you'd be able to redeem it, but over here you can't redeem it because the rabbi said it's still in Jerusalem, even though the walls fell down. Well, fine. Well, that's a very nice explanation for the brisa, but what does this have to do with 5 cents? Wouldn't the same law be true if it was $1? Let's say it was 3 apples and the walls fell down. The same law is in effect. Why is Rav Huna only mention this law with regard to a tiny apple, or whatever, a quarter of an apple? Why the same rule is equally true whether it's 100 apples? Someone says you're right. Let me buy a Kamma. It's true. That is also true. That's much more obvious. Let me buy yesh by the kolton lay mechitza. Aim by aim lay kolton mechitza kamash b'la. If you have 100 apples and you bring it into Jerusalem, obviously the rule is that it's captured by the walls of Jerusalem. Meaning, what does it mean that it's captured? It's captured in the sense that you can no longer redeem it. You can redeem your ma'aser sheni up until you get to the walls. Once you're in the walls, you're in the city, you can no longer redeem.
Page position, please, Rabbi.
We'll just give me a second here. I'll get to it in a moment. However, once we're in, however, maybe if it's less than a quarter, let's say it's a 5 cent apple, maybe it doesn't have the rules of being captured by Jerusalem. Maybe you can redeem it even if it's inside Jerusalem. The Gemara is saying that's why both more or less than 25 cents, once it's in Jerusalem, it's sort of captured by Jerusalem. It cannot be redeemed. Okay, we're about a quarter of the way, 2/3 of the way down, and we're at Tana Rabbanan. First one line is mechitzas. Before we start, though, I'm just going to summarize. What do we see? What do we see so far? We started off with the law of Chizkiah. Chizkiah has a very interesting proposal. How do you redeem 5 cents of ma'aser? Very simple. This is how you do it. You find an existing coin that was created as a ma'aser sheni coin. It was a $100 coin. You put $98 of ma'aser. Means there's $2 of value left to the coin. So what do? You add value onto the coin. You're allowed to add 5 cents onto the coin. The Gemara question: if that's the case, then even a tiny amount of ma'aser should never be bottled, should never be nullified. Why? Because it's a davar sheyesh lo matirin. It has permissibility. How do you permit it? You redeem it. You add it to such a coin. The Gemara says you're right. If he has such a coin, you're right. It's not nullified. You have to go redeem it. We're talking about where he doesn't have such a coin, and for various reasons, you're not allowed to make such a coin. It's not recommended. Why? Because it could lead to a bunch of confusions. Now, once we brought that idea that Meiser could be nullified, Meiser Sheni could be nullified if it's worth 5 cents. The Brisa also indicates that Meiser Sheni can be nullified if it leaves Jerusalem. What does it mean if it leaves Jerusalem? So we had a bunch of different possibilities in the final analysis. Leaving Jerusalem means there's an earthquake and the walls fall down. So you're not allowed to redeem it because it's still considered in Jerusalem. It's so-called captured. It's kolot by Jerusalem. It's captured by the city in the sense that you can no longer redeem the money. You can no longer redeem the meiser fruit. However, you can't eat it because there's no walls. And therefore, the laws of bittul, of nullification, are in effect. That's what we saw till now. Let's continue. Okay. It says if a person will redeem his meiser. And now the word here is mi meiser, from his meiser, meaning there's many varieties of meiser sheni. And if you redeem some of those varieties, well, what does that tell you? It tells you that some of the varieties can be redeemed. And there's at least one variety that can't be redeemed. What type of variety of meiser sheni can't be redeemed? So the Gemara says, prat meiser sheni shein b'shavu pruta. According to the Brisa, if the meiser is worth less than 25 cents, it does not have redemption. And this obviously disagrees with the opinion of Chizkiah. The Brisa here is disagreeing with Chizkiah. Itmar, we learned in the Brisa, of Ami Amar, ein bay. Of Yosi Amar, ein b'chumshay. Okay, what does it mean that it doesn't have a shavu pruta? It isn't a quarter. Let's explain. When you redeem meiser, let's say you have $100 of meiser, and you want to redeem it onto a coin, you need to have a $125 coin. You have to add a fifth. Okay, and the fifth, like we said in English, we would call that 25%. And again, we'll discuss this. We'll discuss that. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to it today. I'm not sure. Okay, we'll see. It's either not today. It's the first thing tomorrow. Okay, we'll discuss why if the 25%, if the fifth is 20% or 25%. That's tomorrow, either end of today or the beginning of tomorrow's discussion. Okay, so here's the question: when this brisa that says there isn't a fifth, there isn't a shavu pruta, does it mean that the apple? So let's explain like this. Let's say a guy has 5 apples. Okay, for argument's sake, I'm sorry. Let's say he has 4 apples. Okay, and he's going to redeem them onto a coin, the value of 5 apples. Okay, does that mean that the 4 apples are worth less than 25 cents? Or does it mean that the 5th apple is worth less than 25 cents? That extra 5th, that chaimish. In other words, this brisa restricts the ability to redeem less than a 5th of meiser. What does less than a 5th mean? It means that less than a shavu pruta, less than a 25 cents. Does that mean that the 5th is less than 25 cents? Or does it mean that the core is less than 25 cents, the principal? Which one? So we have a debate here. Rav Ami Amar ein boy. The total value of meiser sheni isn't worth 25 cents. Rav Asi Amar Rav says no. The total value is, but it's ein b'chumshay. The 5th isn't worth 25 cents. Rav Yochanan Amar, Rav Yochanan says ein boy. The total, he's of the opinion that the measurement of less than 25 cents is on the principal. Rav Shem Melakish, Rav Shlakish says ein b'chumshay. It's on the 5th. 5th is worth less than 25 cents. Gemara says Meisvei, question. Meiser sheni she'ein b'shavu pruta. You have meiser sheni that isn't worth a shavu pruta. Dai she'yomer hu v'chumshay mechol al meiser sheni. Okay, so you have meiser sheni that's worth less than 25 cents. We'll have to explain this in a moment. It's enough that you can say that it and its 5th is redeemed onto money. 1 second. Okay. One second. Hold on here 1 second. Okay. So Bryce here says it's enough that how can you redeem it? You can add it to an existing coin. So Gemara wants to know, what does the word enough mean? What does it mean it's enough? Okay, so Gemara explains. Bishlem Lamanda Amar Ein B'chum Shai. Just give me a second. According to the opinion that says there isn't in the fifth, meaning it's enough, even though the fifth, the principal could be redeemed on the coin. It's enough, it suffices that the fifth could be redeemed on the same coin, even though it's less than shavar pruta. So the word dai, it's enough, makes sense. Okay. However, even the shopper. In other words, dai means it's enough, meaning it's enough to redeem the fifth, even though the fifth itself is less than a quarter. However, according to the opinion that says that you can redeem it, even if you cannot redeem meiser, where the meiser itself is less than a fifth, is less than shavar pruta, is less than 25 cents. So then this price is referring to redeeming it onto an existing coin. My dai, what does it mean it's enough? The price should just speak straight. If the meiser is worth less than 25 cents, the principal of meiser is worth less than 25 cents, it can be redeemed on an existing meiser coin. What's the word enough? If we're talking about the fifth of the meiser is worth less than a quarter, so then it's enough that component is redeemed on an existing coin. Because we're talking about two different things. But if the law is in effect with regard to the meiser itself, why do you need to invoke the word v'dai? It's enough. So the Gemara says, Kasha, you're right. This is indeed a difficult question, and it remains unresolved. Okay, we'll just see the first two lines of the next Gemara. Here's the question. When we talk about a fifth, what does a fifth mean? Does the fifth mean 25%, or does it mean 20%? Does it mean 20%, a fifth of the total content from the inside? On $20, you'd add 4, which is an inside fifth, meaning 20%. Or do we say, no. The fifth means that after you add it, it equals a fifth, which means a quarter. On $20, it would be $5. And 5 represents a fifth of 25, which would be a combination of the principal plus the fifth. Okay. Have a great day. And I'll see everybody tomorrow. I'll be kicking off tomorrow at 6. Tomorrow is at 6 o'clock, I believe, right?
Correct. Yashakot, happy Pesach, and coming up. And